Hi there. Welcome to our online info session for the Fairfield University Low-Res M.F.A. program. We're going to tell you a little bit about the program. My name is Sonia Huber. I am the director, and I'm also a faculty member in nonfiction. Hi there.
I'm Bill Patrick. I'm co-director and also a faculty member.
Fairfield University Low-Res M.F.A. program. Thank you. All right. Sorry, we had an echo. So I wanted to first give you a sense of the basic outline of our program. A lot of people, when they first hear about low residency, they would like to know how it's different than a high residency program. So it's a kind of program that has developed over the last 10 years, and it's perfect for working adults because you don't actually need to give up the life that you've already established. Instead, what you do is you work from home for most of the year. You have 2 semesters where you work in a one-on-one relationship with a writing mentor. And then in between those, you come twice a year out to a residency. Do you want to describe a little bit about the residencies?
The residencies are 9 days. The one in the winter goes from a little bit after Christmas, from the 27th to about the 4th of January. The one in the summer is usually the middle of July. And to say that they're action-packed and full would be an understatement. We go from about 7:30 in the morning until about 10 at night. You have workshops in the morning, you have seminars in the afternoon, we have readings at night, we have meals, of course, and it goes that way 13, 14 hours a day for 8 of the 9 days. And you'd think that would be onerous, but it's fabulous.
It is.
It's really quite wonderful.
And so in the morning, what happens is you have about a 2.5-hour workshop in your genre where you get together with between 4 and 7 of your peers and an instructor, and everyone has come prepared in advance for feedback for each other. So you have a really focused conversation where you get feedback on your work that you can take home with you. And at the same time, you're developing skills in critiquing and editing the work of others, which helps you develop that same eye for your own work. And the other thing that I wanted to explain about the mentorship part is how we transition from the residencies to the individual mentoring. Basically, we have what we've called a speed dating arrangement. Twice during the residencies, we put all of our faculty in classrooms around the island, and students have a chance to go visit them and ask them questions, explain their projects, and then students actually get to rank 1 to 3 who they would like to work with for the coming semester. We put everybody's picks into kind of a sorting hat, and then at the end of that, faculty members are paired up with their mentees to make a plan for how they're going to work together during the semester.
Yeah, the mentor interviews are actually more like Shirley Jackson's The Lottery. It gives the students a chance to come and stone you for about 45 minutes to an hour. I'm kidding, of course. No, but it's they're kind of harrowing. You've got to be ready for them. I myself have lots of handouts to try to keep them at bay, you know. But it's important for the students because, for one thing, you show up and you don't exactly know what the strengths of the faculty members are, so this gives them a chance to find that out. It also gives them a chance to find out, you know, who's going to be a good fit as a mentor, and that's really key. You don't want to just be stuck with somebody for 4 or 5 months where, you know, you don't get along, you don't agree, you don't have the same interests.
So students really do come in saying, this is my project, I'm working on a novel about warring tribes of Easter bunnies. How would you best allow me to progress with this project, right? And then they are expecting answers.
I would beg off on that one. The Easter bunnies, I'd beg off on that one.
The next thing, of course, since that's the general framework of low residencies, is why Fairfield. We're going to talk and show you pictures a little bit later about the actual location, but our residencies themselves take place winter and summer on an island that is just off the coast near Mystic, Connecticut. So beautiful retreat center setting, isolated yet close enough to the train and highways so it's easy to get to, but many people have described it as a very inspiring setting. Other features that we have is we do offer one $5,000 scholarship per incoming class, and we've also instituted something called the prior learning assessment or prior learning credit. And that is specifically for writers who have been developing their career, maybe already published books. We have folks who are already represented and agented, but who have just, their career has gone ahead of their, the degree, and then they find as their career develops that they need also the M.F.A. for potential teaching and to push their craft to the next level. So we ask students after they're admitted to submit optional additional materials that would give them the equivalent of up to 1 semester credit towards the M.F.A., which means the M.F.A. in that case can be completed in 3 semesters instead of 4. And that's obviously competitive. The next fun thing to talk about is our outstanding faculty. Bill?
The faculty is amazing. We've got fiction writers, nonfiction writers, poets, screenwriters, dramatists. We've got, we cover the waterfront when it comes to that. Should we name them all? See if we can remember.
Oh my gosh.
Rachel Bash, Michael White, Sonia Huber, Bill Patrick, Eugenia Kim, Da Chen, Karen Osborne,
Hollis Seaman,
Carol Ann Davis.
Adriana Paramo.
Anybody else?
Did we say Al?
Baron Wormser, Al Davis.
Eugenia Kim. Did we say her?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we got everybody. So yeah, I mean, Google those people if you don't know them. I hope you do know them because they're all, you know, quite wonderful. The thing that I want to talk about with the faculty, apart from the fact that they're all professionals, is that they're all extremely good teachers. Mm-hmm. And you don't find that in every MFA program. I've taught in lots of colleges, lots of different places. This is, first of all, the most collegial faculty I've ever been around. And we all really get along. We all like each other. We all hang out when we're not on the island. It's just a great group of people. But they're really great teachers. Mm-hmm. And let's face it, if you're going to an MFA program, that's what you want.
Definitely.
You want terrific mentors, you want terrific workshops, because your interest is, you know, not how good we are as writers, except in how it helps you. Mm-hmm. That's just the name of the game, and this faculty is committed, professional, really dedicated.
I think that's true, and I think our faculty have also seen everything when it comes to writing projects and are sort of not oriented just toward what's your next workshop selection of 20 pages, but what does your book look like? What's your big picture project, and how are we going to get you there?
We forgot Shelley Evans, our screenwriter.
Sorry, Shelley.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So here's a few pictures of Ender's Island, the actual location, and we're going to, when we're done with our presentation, there'll be more images. But it's a beautiful place, as we mentioned, and there's easy access via trains, both from Boston and airports in New York and Providence. And we have students even who go up there when the residencies are not in session just to hang out, because that's been the location that they most identify with inspiration. So,
you know, of the probably 70 or so MFA programs that are low residency, I would defy any of them to have a better venue. I mean, Ender's Island is absolutely gorgeous. Mm-hmm. You know, it's right in the middle of Long Island Sound, right off the coast of Mystic. It's totally gorgeous. How could you not be inspired being on this island? It's just fabulous.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. We've already talked a little bit about our faculty and the specific way that we mentor. I wanted to take an opportunity to talk a little bit more about how the mentoring works in each semester. So usually what happens is at the beginning of the semester, the faculty member and the student will put together a list of about 10 books, most of them works of literature, either in the genre the student's working in or just something that could provide inspiration, and then craft books. And then the faculty member will sketch out a rough guideline of, here are the deadlines for the semester. Students will submit 4 packets of about 20 pages each, and then a few in between those or with them will be a series of craft papers. So students are getting a chance not only to write their own work, but encouraged constantly throughout the program to articulate what they're learning through reading the work of others.
Yeah, reading other people is key to the program. Usually, for every packet that I assign, there's 1 craft book and 2 sort of source material texts. So if you're a novelist, I'll have you read, Janet Burroway's book on writing, or The Graceful Lie, or, John Gardner's work, or somebody who'll basically give you a sense of the craft elements that are necessary. And then you'll read a couple of novels. I try to link up the novels that are going to be most helpful as models with the work that the student is doing so that they feel motivated and interested in those. And then when they do the craft essay, I have them take an element from the craft book, apply it to the 2 texts that they've read, and also apply it to their own work. I try to integrate the whole thing.
Right.
Because that's the point. We're trying to help them with their own work, trying to make them professional writers. So the packets are essential, not only to provide models, but to let them understand what's happening in their genre.
Right, right. And then we also, so after a faculty member reads the student's work, the student gets line-by-line comments of, specific feedback, and then also a big letter that says, okay, here's the big picture, here's the feedback I'm thinking about, here's things to be aware of in structure. And then usually what we do is we schedule either a phone call or a Skype conversation, and in some cases, if faculty members happen to live nearby their students, an in-person meeting, and just, talk both about what's been submitted, but also a lot more. We end up talking about the shape of the work itself, what the student is concerned about. Sometimes we do cheerleading and confidence building. I don't know, what else have you done in your phone calls?
Lots of cheerleading. Well, understand that these are not writers who are mid-career. They're at the beginnings of their career. And so a lot of what we have to do goes way beyond teaching, way beyond teaching craft or editing or, just responding to their work. It's helping them understand what their life is going to be like as writers.
Right.
And that's not easy.
Right.
That's not easy. But that's an essential part of it.
Right.
So what happens, you end up getting very close with the students you're mentoring. Even though you hardly ever see them during the semester, I email at least twice a week, talk on the phone every couple of weeks with them, get the packets. You're kind of always in touch. And that's the difference between a residential program and low residency. And I've taught in both, and low residency I find to be a much better model because of that closeness. You're constantly in touch with somebody. When you're in a residential program, you go to face-to-face classes, but you don't get a chance to see your instructor that much. You might be able to go to a meeting once, every 2 or 3 weeks or something. But, I'm in touch with my students every week, all 5, every week. And you don't get that in other programs.
Yeah, and I attended a traditional M.F.A. program, but one of the things I think is really different about the intense mentor-mentee relationship in a low-res program is I find I'm often modeling what I would do next in my own book manuscript, right? So we've been at this phase, we've been sort of roughing out content, now we're going to go next and see if we can chart out the whole thing, or we're going to go back to the beginning, or I think we're going to identify some problem spots and start working here. So yeah, a lot of it is helping a student to understand what a big writing project is and how to break it down.
And that's where the professionalism of the faculty comes in. Because, imagine, you're a writer, you write something, you send it off, and you don't necessarily get back, lots of kudos. And usually you get back, well, okay, this is working, this is working, this is really not working. How does that make you feel? Well, sometimes you feel rejected, sometimes you feel like, God, why am I doing this? This is going to be too hard. This is, I thought this was going to be 2 years, it's going to be 20 years. The writing life is the writing life, and you get hopefully better with every book, but you have to understand at the beginning that you're kind of signing on for life. This is a life vocation. And so if as a faculty member you're not able to lead people down that path and give them the encouragement they need, you're going to turn people off. Some people will drop out. You don't want to be responsible for stopping somebody early in a career that could be great. Just because somebody's written something at the beginning that isn't working, that doesn't mean that 2 years from now they don't write a masterpiece.
Exactly, yes. I think so much of what we do is to identify, this is working, here's how you build on the good stuff.
Right, exactly. And it's a matter of faith on both sides. As a faculty member, you believe that student is going to be a great writer someday, and they put their trust in you, to not mismanage their career, to help them along.
Exactly. So I wanted to mention a couple of great things that we've developed over time. We do have the specializations you'd expect in fiction, poetry, and nonfiction. Increasingly over time, we had students request to do more than one genre. So now we do that actually, we encourage multiple genres, and many of our students, if not most, take a workshop in at least one genre. We've also developed specializations and focuses in playwriting and screenwriting. Do you want to talk about your workshop with Shelley?
Yeah, I started doing, I was the screenwriter on faculty for the first 4 or 5 years, and so every other semester I would do, a screenwriting workshop and have a couple of students, but we didn't really develop it very much until last year when we hired Shelley Evans. Shelley is a TV screenwriter who's had 13 movies done on major network TV, and she's just terrific writer, terrific story analyst. And so when Shelley showed up, she and I started doing something called a story development workshop, excuse me, where we would bring people of all genres in, poets, fiction writers, nonfiction writers, and basically say, okay, here's what you got, here's what you're starting with. Let's say you take the hardest. You take a poet who's got 3 or 4 lyrical poems, and you say, all right, how do we turn this into something else? A nonfiction work, a screenplay, a novel, whatever. And you teach the practices of story development. And it is transformative. I mean, you see people, even if they don't want to switch genres, if they just want to stay a poet or stay a fiction writer, they just understand so much better about the process of narrative, the process of character development, the process of story arcs and character arcs. And you don't get that unless you have a kind of broad-based view of story development. So we do that. Shelley teaches screenwriting, I teach screenwriting. We both kind of switch off on story development. And I think it's been great. Yeah,
definitely. It's amazing to see how exciting the students have been when they get done with the workshop.
Well, it just opens them up.
Right.
Right. I can remember when I hadn't written any screenplays before 1990, and I went to a workshop given by Michael Haig, who's one of the Hollywood gurus, along with Robert McKee and a couple of other people. And all of us were from Cambridge, Mass., and we all showed up. And one of the first things he said was, well, if you're here just because you're novelists, you can all leave, I'll give you a refund. And we all said, whoa, we're from Cambridge, what are you talking about? And so over the course of 2 days, I learned more about story development from him talking about screenwriting than I had in 20 years of reading.
Wow.
And so it's, some of them are tricks, some of them are strategies, but they do show you how to develop your story.
That's awesome. And then applicable back into any genre that you're working in, right?
Absolutely.
That's great. That's awesome. So a couple other things that we've developed based on both our faculty expertise and student interest is we offer multi-genre workshops in various topics. We've done writing loss. We've done literature of health and healing. And we've also done a very popular focus in spiritual writing. And that's spiritual defined in a very broad sense. Any student in any genre that feels drawn to that topic comes together in a workshop to share their work. And that's been one of the central focuses that a lot of students have been working on. All right, so the next thing to talk about is career prep. We have, among many other specializations that students can engage in, a focus in editing and publishing, which includes an internship that students can be involved with if they happen to choose a mentor like Bill. So do you want to talk about
Was that a segue?
Yeah, totally. That was like, I haven't taken screenwriting, so that was a funky segue.
Well, I'm an editor for a press called Hudson Whitman, which is Excelsior College Press, and I've been doing that for the last 6 or 7 years. We've got Al Davis as one of our faculty members. He runs New Rivers Press in Minnesota. Who else do we have?
Oh, actually, both Carol Ann Davis and I work with Dogwood.
That's right.
So those are that's a national literary journal that's based here at Fairfield. So with all of these, basically what a student can choose to do is, in addition to their creative work, they can intern in editing and publishing and become involved in projects that directly have them editing the work of others.
Which is amazing experience. And, you know, I've had 3 or 4 interns, and I just throw them right in. You know, if I'm in the middle of an editing project, I say, here you go, I'll send it to you, and we'll just edit together.
Exactly.
So it's great hands-on application for them.
And we've had a couple students one student who was working with New Rivers Press started with a book at sort of the beginning at acquisition, and then decided to just work with that book through the editing process all the way until it was finished with copy edits, past the end of her semester, because she was so committed. So it's a great exposure. A couple students have also chosen to seek out their own literary internships, whether it's with a local literary journal or magazine, or with a literary agent, and that's something that we integrate into the coursework.
We also have students who are already in publishing.
Right.
David Legier, Ashley Zantop, Wendy Ryman, who's in the program now. And so it isn't just the faculty members who can add, it's the students who can also add. Wendy, as a matter of fact, is doing a seminar this coming residency because she runs, you know, an editing and proofreading organization. So, you know, it's a great kind of back and forth that we have.
And we feel committed to always focusing our students on the question, not only of how is your creative work going to develop, but how are you going to continue, and if that's your desire, develop your working life in a way that supports the writing. So we also have a group of our alumni who just recently started their own publishing house, Woodhill Press, and we also, when you're thinking about the nuts and bolts of publication, we're committed to supporting that as well in our students. So every residency, we have editors and or agents and publishers from New York who come out to do panels. We've also had one-on-one sessions where students sign up to have their work reviewed by an agent. Last residency, we had a query letter workshop where we had an agent give honest feedback about query letters and whether they were, you know, go or no-goes, and it was helpful, and people were a little surprised.
Amaria Orenstein from the Go Literary Agency in Boston, who is just a crackerjack, and she's very diplomatic, but she's also realistic and no holds barred. You know, if somebody gives her an example that she thinks doesn't work, she just says, this doesn't work. Here's what you have to do to make it work. And so really good professional advice. And we've had a lot of good people. We had Robert Gottlieb's son last year, who's with Trident, I think. We had Noah Lukeman come up. Noah's done great stuff. He came up and gave a 2-hour seminar from the 4 or 5 books he's written about, you know, all sorts of things, including editing. So the panels are, you know, once again, up close and personal, and they're every single residency we have somebody, which is great.
And so another concern or an interest that a lot of students are interested in when they come into the program is thinking big picture We know that the M.F.A. is a terminal degree, so it allows you to teach after you've earned the degree. So the question many of our students have is, with a low-res M.F.A., is there a bridge into teaching at the local level? For students who currently live anywhere near Fairfield, we have an arrangement where they have been able to serve as teaching assistants in creative writing and hopefully soon also in composition classes, and receive career development that way. Also, for students who are here in the area, we have connections with local two-year, four-year community colleges and regular universities. Many students, even if they're not located in the area, have decided to pursue pedagogy through their third semester project. So a third semester project is where we ask students to think beyond themselves and develop a program or a research project that is addressing some wider interest in the writing world. So I've had students, for example, who've decided, I want to be a teacher. I'm going to spend my research project writing about teaching in the college creative writing classroom and developing a teaching philosophy, and I'll sit in with a university that's near me and then go over the research project with a mentor. And that, I think, is great job preparation if teaching is what people are interested in.
Yeah, third semester projects give people an opportunity to really go far afield. We've had all kinds of stuff. I've had people write one-person shows. I've had them do screenplays. Laura Johnson, who's one of my mentees right now, is doing a spiritual extended essay about George Herbert and Denise Levertov, because she's a Christian who's interested in writing spiritual poetry herself. Peter Kahn teaches at-risk high school students in Chicago, and he did a fabulous third semester project last semester with me about teaching those kids. We've had lots of people do terrific, after-school programs, teaching programs. I can't remember who did the fabulous project with the Latin class in, was it in Providence? I can't remember, but all of these projects are in-depth, interesting, and they go the whole semester, so they've got 4 or 5 months to work on them, and they really get good, and they get long.
And then there's, of course, Chris Madden, who was writing he was writing a novel about Bigfoot, and his third semester project was going to Arkansas to track Bigfoot. So even that's an option.
These are important opportunities. Bigfoot may be out there.
We also, third semester projects, we've had quite a number that have been focused on community engagement and community publishing. So many of our students are interested in teaching in community settings with veterans, in the prisons, with at-risk teens, for example, and so we've designed workshops based on models they've researched and then gone and actually started teaching with them. In each of those cases, I think the third semester project can help build to something that the student wants to pursue, and in many cases have pursued after graduation. Chris
Belden did that prison project where I know that he published some of the work of the prisoners he was working with.
Right. And the important thing as you're thinking about the 4-semester timeline is that even during the third semester, even though it might sound rigorous, we're also allowing the student to continue the creative work and also offering feedback once they've done the third semester project, thinking about where we're going to end up with the thesis, and that's really the work of the last semester. The thesis is a chance to present something. Doesn't have to necessarily be a full-length book. It can be a selection of work, can be multi-genre. But it's the last semester is a chance for you and a mentee to really sit down, look at the breadth of what you've produced, produce new material if you need to, and to dig in one last time with the kind of feedback that's going to leave you having also a sense of what you need to work on post-M.F.A. Anything else thesis-wise to add?
Well, A lot of the time, if there's a longer work, if a student's working on a novel, we'll try to take a chunk of it, 125, 150 pages, and try to get them to get that to a finished state. Because if you bite off, if you're writing a 300-page novel and you bite off too much of that, you can get very discouraged.
Yeah.
And you can't finish and polish a 300-page novel in 3 or 4 months. It just can't be done. But almost every novelist I've worked with has produced 125 to 150 finished professional pages, and often within a year or so, they'll go on to finish that.
That's great.
Tim Donaldson's doing that now. Heather Zulinger is doing that now. So the thesis is an essential part. And it gives them not only the encouragement, but the motivation to finish that piece. It's, a novel is, it's a big chunk to bite off, and you've got to take 3 or 4 years to do that. And we give them the first 2 years, and then they take another year or two and often get it done. And sure enough, we've had, it says 34 published books. I think we have 35 now, right?
35,
I just
yeah.
got Matt Winkler's book from Woodhill Press.
Right, right. So that's we're very proud of that number,
Yeah.
and proud definitely of the alumni who've stayed with their multiple book projects, which is really exciting. Speaking of the book projects, one of the things that is really exciting about the Fairfield M.F.A. is that we have a book prize that is limited just to current students and alumni of our program. So every 2 years, we have New Rivers Press, who Al Davis works with, receive submissions from our students and alumni. New Rivers Press screens those, and then a select number are sent out to an outside judge. That person selects one book that is going to be published through New Rivers Press. So we're excited to see Lynn Heinzman's book, which is coming out in the spring. And that comes with a $1,000 prize and with a publishing contract that includes royalties.
And with New Rivers Press, which is a terrific independent press. So Nick Nattel was our first winner, Chris Belden our second winner, Lynn Heinzman is our third winner. And it's pretty exciting to finish an MFA program and have a book.
Right.
And winning a prize is just sort of the icing on the cake. And I know it's helped Nick and Chris a lot.
Yeah.
So it's really a great prize, great program.
Yeah, in Chris's case, he became close with the judge, who then really helped him with connections in publishing.
Absolutely.
So one of the other things that is sort of, I admit, when I first started working with Fairfield, I was a little bowled over by the enthusiasm of our alumni. They are devoted, and I think the only reason they are devoted is because they feel like they have received so much from the program, not only in terms of faculty, but from each other. So we have a great group. They have formed an alumni association and a website called After Enders at afterenders.com. You can check that out. It lists all of the student accomplishments. And I think for students and students who've graduated, the major strength of the program when they leave is that they continue to have the connections that are not only going to sustain them for confidence, but also for continued feedback on their writing. So many of our students, whether they lived here or are spread out around the country and around the world, continue to use their alumni connection for lifelong encouragement and feedback.
It's absolutely true. And, I think it starts the moment they get to the island. I really think that's what happens. We have an orientation for new students, and right after that, of course, we have lunch. And I know that sounds pedestrian and quotidian, but the truth is that you're a student, you show up, and you're eating next to the faculty for the entire 9 days. I mean, there's no separation between student and faculty. And so there's that feeling of inclusion, the feeling of acceptance, and that's where it begins. And I think that's why people get so excited about being part of the program, because they feel accepted, they feel, I don't want to use the term loved, but they certainly feel appreciated by it. And that's hard to find.
Definitely.
I mean, all the places I've taught, I didn't have students who felt they were part of the community. We have a community at Fairfield.
Definitely, to where we have an alumni day each residency. And I'm amazed at the number of people who trek out to the island every single residency just to see fellow alumni, to reconnect with faculty and reconnect with the place.
Yeah, well, it's such a beautiful place. That's part of it, you know? Why would you not want to be in a beautiful place where you have lots of friends? I mean,
Right.
This is not a bad thing.
And they're writers, so they get you.
Yeah, really, really. Can we just stay here?
That's what they say, definitely.
Right.
All right, great. So at this point, we're going to open it up to you. If you have any questions, you can feel free to enter them in the chat bar, and Elizabeth Hastings, our superstar coordinator, will let us know what those questions are, and we'll try to answer them the best we can.
I have one right now. What would you recommend I focus on in my application?
Well, the number one thing I think that's important for application materials, what we always look at first is the writing sample. So the writing sample can be, it's about 18 to 20 pages, can be a little longer, but we're looking for facility with language, the fact that you know how to put sentences together, and even if you have a bunch of short pieces as opposed to a selection of something larger, we're looking for you using language in a creative way. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, for example, say a finished short story. I've had people turn in the beginnings of a few different things. But it's really, I think, for a faculty member and evaluator, it is, what I'm looking for is some sense of energy in the text.
And don't forget to proofread it properly.
Yes, yeah.
It's one thing that a lot of people forget, is that the surface of the piece has got to show how professional you are. So edit it, proofread it, make sure your syntax is right, make sure your punctuation is right. Now, obviously, none of that's going to matter if you don't have, you know, interesting ideas and interesting concepts and a good story to tell. But the whole thing has to be a package. So don't forget the surface when you're applying.
That's right. And I don't think you need to apologize for the fact that you have, for example, had a career or done multiple things in your life. I love to see in a personal statement someone describing how they have managed to keep up with their writing throughout doing a wide range of things, because our students actually come from every walk of life. We've had math professors, we've had nurses, we've had former attorneys, doctors, we've had everyone. So hearing about the work that you've done in the personal statement is always really interesting to me.
Life experience is a major plus in an M.F.A. writing program.
Okay, good.
And another question, how do you determine who receives the $5,000 scholarship?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's all bribery, isn't it? Isn't it?
Gifts.
Yeah.
So the $5,000 scholarship, what we do is we set a cutoff date towards the end of, as we're getting close to the residency. And at that point, I evaluate the writing samples of the students that have applied up to that point. We will award the $5,000 scholarship to the student whose writing sample shows the most promise.
When is your application deadline?
Let's see, every semester we will publish what is a recommended deadline. So for example, our coming residency is starting in end of December. So we like to get in applications by the first week of November, for example, right now or soon. And that just ensures that we're able to get our paperwork processed, get our students accepted, and then get the workshop samples sent out. But we do rolling admissions, which means that we evaluate students' applications as they come in. And so you're able to, whenever you apply, you can get an application decision quickly, usually within a few weeks, so that you can plan to either attend for that coming residency or, for example, for the next residency, which starts in July of 2017.
There's one more question here. What do alumni seem to value most about the program after they've graduated?
That's interesting. I would say community.
Yeah.
I think community is what they value most about it. But they also value the fact that they can stay in touch with the faculty. I mean, I have 2 or 3 former students who are sending me work still 2 or 3, 4 years from when they were in the program. So, you know, writing tends to be a fairly lonely life, and you definitely need somebody whose ideas and analytical abilities you trust when you send your work out. You can't give your work to friends because the friends want to stay friends, you know, and they want to say, gee, I never knew you were such a great writer. This is terrific. Don't change a word. It's not what you want to hear. What you want to hear is, you know, here's what's working, here's what isn't, and here's how I can help. Faculty provides that. So I'd say community and professional advice are the 2 things they want most.
Definitely. And I think also, I mean, it's amazing that, I mean, just, you know, Woodhill Press, speaking of a venture, started with a group of alumni. I think as the number of alumni grow, there really are quite a few professional connections that they have to offer each other. We have a lot of students trading information about employment, but also publishing opportunities. So it's great to see what happens on the alumni Facebook group in terms of sharing connections and opportunities.
And a lot of those folks are already in professional fields that will help them.
Right.
You know, marketing, journalism, you know, they already have jobs where they can promote their work once they publish it.
Exactly.
Can you also just mention, too, that if anybody is interested in visiting the island, if they're local, they're more than welcome
yes.
to come to the residencies to see how
That's
works.
right. So you can, if you're interested, if you're anywhere near Connecticut or within driving distance, you can feel free to contact us and set up a visit to come and stay for a day out at the residency. It's a wonderful way, both winter and summer. It's lovely both seasons to see the community in progress, to see how students and faculty interact with each other, and you know, to get to know a little bit about the program and the kind of offerings that we have, as well as, you know, just that intangible sense of, is this the program for me? So if you email us, we can, Elizabeth Hastings can give you the upcoming schedule and select a couple of days that might work best for your interests.
Also, if you come visit, you can sit in on the workshops, you can go to the
Right.
seminars, you can go to the readings, eat all the meals with everybody. I mean, you can pretend essentially that you're part of the program. You're not going to be given, you know, a tour around the island and say thanks. You know, you're going to be there for the whole day.
That's right. And if you're considering the program but aren't, you know, still weighing the options, we do offer every summer, we have a writing conference, which is the first half of the residency where students can come and take a workshop without having to commit. And that's a wonderful way to, I think, get a real workshop experience and mull over whether this is the right program for you.
Plus, it gives you a chance to have a vacation on an island off of Mystic, which isn't such a bad thing.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it for the questions at the moment.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. And if you have any other questions, you can feel free to contact us. And I wish you all the best with your writing.